Well, we are recording, and I say this all the time. Do you see recording on your thing, Rachel?
Yeah, I do.
Perfect. So we're recording. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin. We, the species. This is a special. I mean, there's always special, but really a special occasion because Rachel, Maeng Brown, and I have great synchronicities besides Rutgers. We'll kind of get into that, and now we have a chance to kind of chat and kind of explore the world. By the way, Happy New Year. So that puts things into perspective. So the title, and Rachel and I were hammering this out. The title of this video, in case you're all going to see it, but it's personal brand architect, business executive, create a model, former Big 10 athlete. That's a lot of stuff, and it doesn't even scratch the surface of what Rachel is. So why don't you just introduce and say hello, and then we'll kind of do some questions and discover you.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Like you said, I mean, that title kind of sums it all up. But again, I'm Rachel Maeng Brown. I'm a former student athlete of Rutgers. And right now I'm a full-time entrepreneur. I'm named the personal brand architect because I help with people, athletes, brands in personal branding and really just using your story to leverage your brand and build it. And like I said, I was a student athlete at Rutgers up till 2018. I was also part of SAC, our advisory council, student government, and a number of other organizations. But I'm really excited to actually talk with someone who loves Rutgers as much as I do.
And we love Rutgers. So let's go back to when you were at Rutgers. And I actually I have a confession. I've never, to my knowledge, met a rower before. So you were on the rowing team at Rutgers. So that's your Big 10 athlete thing. And can you talk about that? I mean, I don't know anything about rowing and about competition and the training. So
Yeah, the easiest way to explain rowing is if you've ever seen The Social Network, they talk a little about rowing because it's from Harvard. But actually, I was a coxswain. I started in high school near Syracuse University. So everyone in the area had to do rowing. And again, I'm a coxswain, which is the person who sits in front or behind of the boat and steers. We make the race plan, we coach, we do a lot of different things. We're like the brain behind the brawn. And I was recruited from around the Syracuse area all the way down to Rutgers. And that's how I kind of ended up there. And I did 4 years on the women's rowing team. We're Division I Big 10. And my first year was actually our first year in the Big 10. And it was cool because we had never been there. It was a really big moment for us to step up. And then I remember my best memory from that year was when we won against Michigan and we stormed the field in football. When the when the field goal had to come down because we stormed the field, that was probably my favorite moment.
Wow. So in addition to rowing, you were one very student.
Not a lot of sleep.
Besides Dean's List, you were on the student assembly. Can you just talk about some of your some of the extracurricular things you did and which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, being a student athlete is definitely a lot. But I think that was really when I learned that there's so many more hours in a day and it's so much about time management. And even if you are a student athlete, you have the ability to not only have a platform that you speak off of and it gives you authority because you're a student athlete, but also you have the ability to represent student athletes. And that ended up being really big for me when I was on our student athlete advisory committee representing my team. And also with our student government, I was the athlete that represented all athletes of the university to not only our student government, to all the constituents of students, but also to the university, to our governing council, to our chancellor, to everyone. And that was such a huge honor for me. And it really helped me understand and kind of define what empowerment is and really what being a mentor was going to become, and just being able to speak and represent all the groups of people. And probably being in RUSA, or student government, was one of my favorite things I did at the university. Beyond that, I was in some organizations that were helping students with special needs, specifically athletes. I was also in one that worked with PSCNG, the Children's Hospital. I was also doing some other things like Riot Squad, and also just working with the university and athletics itself. So I was pretty busy, but you know, there's a lot of time in the day, and it's really important to just do what you're passionate about.
And it kind of just kind of feeds off itself. You get more
Yeah.
involved and more involved.
Ugh,
I kind of know about that.
it just keeps going.
You did something too. You know, I did my research with Embrace Kids, which
Mhm.
I thought was very special. Um, Embrace Kids when kids were sick, and you kind of work with them. So you really had some amazing years. Um, Next on my little list, uh, you graduated in 2018, and
Mhm.
you've done some modeling. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Actually, that kind of comes back a little bit to empowerment and also to branding. As far as empowerment goes for me, the space I'm in is fitness modeling, and there actually aren't many Asians in that space, almost none at all. So it's really kind of an area that I saw not only like a place to fill a niche for Asian women, but also just to kind of be one of the first people that kind of takes that big step into it. I just think that when it comes to empowerment, there really is no glass ceiling if you push yourself to do it, if you create that road that other women behind you can follow on. And that was really important for me. And then on top of it, with branding, you know, when I'm asking my athletes or my companies or my individuals to even do something, I'm someone that I really believe in speaking from experience. So if I'm going to talk to them about how they should speak in front of a camera or how they should pose for their headshots and things like that, like I wanted to be able to tell them how to do it because I've done it and I've been on that side of the camera. So it was a very like strategic move for me to go into modeling, but you know, I've really enjoyed it, especially in New York City. Doing some different fitness shots, being in some commercials, and then even now becoming a model and a spokesmodel for different brands. So that's been a really different experience that I didn't expect, but something that I know I'm going to continue with.
I modeled once for an
Oh,
art
yeah.
museum when I was a freshman in college.
Okay.
Um, and that was a long time ago, and it was a one-shot deal because you know what, modeling is very difficult.
Yeah, you think you look good, and then you see the picture after, and you're like,
I mean, and I modeled for an art class, so I had a whole a position for like 40
yeah, a pose.
minutes, and there's some comedic elements to that which I won't go into now. It's not important, but it was a one-shot deal. That was the end of my modeling career. But I can
There's still time.
certainly respect what it's like, wow, to do that. It's a wow. So, um, we should tell folks, you know, the word, and one of my favorite topics is synchronicity.
Mhm.
And you know, we met on LinkedIn because we're at Rutgers, and then uh, the universe opens up, and
Yeah,
you
timing.
become involved with Dome Audio, and coincidentally and synchronistically, I've written a number of articles on Dome Audio, which I love, and Tim and Ben, and so and now you're involved. So why don't you bring us up to date and tell people about Dome Audio, uh, and I'll briefly say how I got involved, but you take it from here.
Yeah, of course. You're right. The universe, whatever you want to call it, making connections is so important. And it really was just networking and timing that I kind of was introduced. Obviously, I knew Tim right before we're Rutgers alumni. You know, we've been kind of cross paths a little bit because I did work with the football team and also the R Fund. But finally, you know, we had this one conversation where we sat down and talked about Dome Audio. I was able to work with the headphones, which are they hold patents. They're actually bone conduction headphones. So rather than sitting inside your ear canal and vibrating the bone, they actually sit outside. And that allows for you to hear ambient noise. And then also you can actually cover them with soundproof covers that we have. And those actually make them soundproof. So it's a really versatile headphone. It's also really new to the market, and it's going to be amazing. And, you know, they're coming out right now, and I've had such a great experience. But, you know, Tim and I had this conversation, and it was, like you said, synchronicity. Like I was completely bought in beyond just Rutgers, but just the idea of the headphones, how they felt like being immersed in that music experience was amazing. And I just believe in the product so much, and also the brand behind it, that I was excited to jump on board. I'm currently their director of partnership branding and marketing. So what I really do is I work with the partners and organizations, and I'm also in charge of the internship program. It's individuals, organizations, and also our affiliates. So what I do is really work with the partners. Like I said, those might be athletes, those might be artists, those might be influencers. And then I run our internship program, which takes undergraduate students under our wings in a number of different areas. So I'm learning a lot, taking on a lot of responsibility, but just so thankful that I'm in the company.
You know, we were talking before we went on air. It was about almost a year ago to the day when I got a phone call from Tim. And Tim and I have a wonderful history. I love Tim. I had years ago, I had interviewed him when he started a foundation, and it was called Friday Night Lights, to help kids with academics and athletics, and a bunch of NFL players were there. And I was one of the few journalists that covered it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long story, and Tim and I marvel how.
I know, it really is, like, whatever you want to call it, the universe, something, it's there.
So, but anyway, Tim had called me in January and said, you know, I have these unbelievable headphones. Are you interested? I said, let's do it. And we spent 2 days. I wrote articles for NJ Discover, and then I met Ben and interviewed Ben, who invented. These are, to me, one of the most amazing products that, you know, I jumped aboard spiritually and wholeheartedly and in every way I could, because it's an unbelievable product. Imagine to have sound conducted through the bones of the ears. And to me, the greatest example of that, walking down the street in Manhattan, and a normal headphone covers your ears, and a car beeps its horn because it's going to run you over, and you don't hear it because you have these old-fashioned headphones on, and you get run over. That's the right English. But with dome audio, you have it going through the bones of your ear, and you hear all the sound if you so want. And you hear that car horn, and you move out of the way. I mean, that's just a small example, but the power of this, when you can boutiqueize it.
Yeah, exactly. The idea of choice, that you can hear the ambient noise or not. And especially, you know, in this day and age, headphones aren't customizable. And if you can give that power back to the consumer, that's a power that really no other company is giving right now, beyond just color. But I think even that is really powerful. The idea.
It's so powerful, and so that's our connection, and of course Tim and Eric, they were doing a collaboration, and for this channel a couple of months ago. We just did this wonderful, one of the great interviews of my entire broadcasting career, when Tim and Eric LeGrand and I sat here and we just talked for 36 minutes. And it was one of the most moving.
To talk about.
Well, we found things to talk about. Football came up, by the way. Teasing. Football, headphones, and you know, Eric is going into the coffee business, which was very exciting. But it was probably my favorite. No offense, it was my favorite. Well, it was my favorite interview because it was so introspective and great. But anyway, so we have a lot of background here, and now to get kind of serious. So
Mhm.
you are a personal brand uh, architect,
Yes.
and I think you need to tell me and tell everybody else, what is that?
Yeah, so as a personal brand architect, I actually consult athletes, brands, and individuals on really discovering their story and learning how to build and leverage their actual personal brand from their story to better connect with their target audience. So that's what I do as an entrepreneur, running my consulting business.
Um, how would you define a brand? Would my wearing a hat all the time, 24/7 for the last 10 years be a brand?
Yeah, of course. That plays into your personal brand. Really, a brand is actually a name given to a product or a service. And that brand itself takes on like an identity, a culture, and a vision. And really, if you think about it, the biggest brands in the world stand out from the crowd and they have an established recognition, loyalty, and appeal to them. And the public has faith in them because they know them. Everyone knows them. And people really buy into what they have and who they are because they know the name. And the idea that people buy from people they know goes the same way, whether it's a brand like a product, whether it be like a product of sneakers or food, something like that, all the way to a person. And really, you wearing the hat, even that's part of your personal brand. And if you are a brand, you are a business. It's the same thing. And you really have this identity that people can hold on to, they can recognize. And really, for athletes specifically, but individuals in general, you want to build a brand that transcends the playing field, the field wherever you're working, anything, because you establish value outside of the field that you're in, whether it be in business, whether it be modeling, whether it be athletics. You want to transcend it to really give yourself that value. And everyone, whether it be a brand, an athlete, or a person, you really need to establish and connect with the audience. And that's really how you use your personal brand and how you build it.
Okay. Um, I don't know if you already answered this, but how does a brand relate to people, to jobs, to athletes? How does that function? Does that
Yeah.
make
So
sense?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
As it relates to people, if you yourself are a brand, the easiest way to put it is you communicate your brand through a medium. So if you're looking to get a job, your target audience is an employer, and the medium that you communicate through is a resume. So putting your personal brand, like your identity, on a piece of paper and communicating it to your audience and employer, that's so important. And I don't think people put those two and two together like that. And if you're an athlete, it's establishing your brand and your identity on and off the field, and giving that identity and connecting and establishing it to the media, because media and fans are really the ones who determine what's popular, how many stars you get, things like that. And it's really the ability for athletes to transcend the field of sports with their identity and their brand. And when it goes for businesses, this was probably the most obvious. Your brand is the name, the entity that you give yourself, and people recognize it. So it's that brand recognition that you've created that really allows for the business to be successful.
Semi off topic. My grasp
Mhm.
of of what you're saying is in my understanding, in my own little microcosmic world, doing what I do, is that brand awareness and brand establishment of being an architect of brand is a 24/7 thing. It's like everything you do in life, every I that you dot and every T
Yeah.
that you cross, every word, every picture you throw up on social media as an expression is 100% brand awareness. Correct?
Yeah, exactly.
It's once you set out, it's your life.
Yeah.
Every
I
little
mean,
thing.
Yeah, I mean, as a person, you're constantly building your brand, developing your brand because you are your brand. You are the name, the identity, the culture, you're everything. So, every interaction you have is giving you awareness, giving you brand awareness, recognition. You're building loyalty with the people that you speak to. Every interview you go in is just bringing up the awareness of yourself and giving you a platform for people to hear your brand and hear your message. So, yeah, it really is everything you post, everything you say. And it sounds daunting, but it's really not. Because if you're just authentic to who you are, you're building loyalty and trust with your audience because it's you. You are the
Right.
brand.
When you were at Rutgers, um, did you know you were heading down this road? What were there any special experiences when you were at Rutgers that helped take you down? I mean, I didn't even ask you what did you get your degree in at Rutgers?
Yeah, so I actually went in pre-med biomedical engineering.
Wow,
I know, yeah.
wow,
I'm in a very different place than I expected.
wow.
I think like every college student, I had that existential crisis where I was so unsure of maybe what I wanted to do in the future. I always had an idea that my passion and my why is always to be able to help people. And I think that going in, I had a really narrow idea of how to do that. And so I went with biomedical engineering, which I have a love for science anyways. Um, and it wasn't until I got into college, I got into rowing, and I struggled with getting it into my schedule because being a student athlete is really time intensive. And then even more so, I got more and more introduced to the idea of being a mentor, of being able to represent people and being able to help people. And I think that that really opened my eyes, and being a student athlete, to what possibilities there are in how you can help people. And that kind of led me down the path of I then realized I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I wanted to
Wow.
somehow build something that would help people
Mhm.
on a large scale, but also have the freedom to do it without constraints of any organization, or any rules, kind of like how the NCAA has quite a few rules that keep us on our path. So it was kind of at that moment that I decided I wanted kind of a broader degree, which was economics and business, to really just understand the world, understand how things work. And then from there, I was just going to use that to get myself in the door.
So did you spend a year in biomed and then transfer out or?
Yeah, so I actually spent 2 years in biomedical
Wow.
engineering. The great part, yeah, our physics department is unmatched. It's a hard course. The great part with, those 2 degrees I got, or at least I went for, they're very math intensive, so it transitioned pretty well, actually. So
To
I
doing
was
what you're doing now, to use the math to be an architect. So
Yeah,
that way it kind of
exactly.
fits in.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever mentioned, I always look, more commonality with you and my degree's in pharmacy.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever mentioned that.
Yeah.
I don't usually mention that a lot, but I have 2 degrees
Okay.
in pharmacy, science, chemistry, all that stuff, and
Mhm.
I, but you know what I say is, especially the biomed, makes you think. It's intense and it makes you think, and
Mhm.
it helps you go through life because you gotta really think outside the box, inside the box, and
Yeah.
break the
Exactly.
box. And that's the training you got, which puts you in this wonderful position,
Yeah,
be an
it
architect.
Yeah, like really the biomedical engineering and the economics and business, it really, shaped my analytical mind. And I think that that's what sets me apart in the areas that I am, is that I really, really think about the things that I do and like the things that I am asking my clients to do. And I really kind of have a lot of forward thought as to where I want things to go or where I want their brand to go. And I think that that's really powerful, is having the idea, of vision and being able to see what you want them to do and be in the future.
Great answer. By the way, I love this repartee because a brand that it's always fascinated me, the whole um, thing about brand in my small microcosmic world with my brand. Um, the last serious question is how it's like there's an old TV show called "This Is Your Life," way before your time, but you kind of look at your life. But how would you like to empower people going forward?
Yeah, I think, when I spoke a little bit earlier about how with modeling, I wanted it, when I was talking to my clients or, any of my mentees, that I wanted to speak from experience. That's really how I look at my idea of empowerment too. One of my, even in the past when I was at Rutgers, I did want to empower people there. And like I said, I was the representative for all athletes in the university. And actually, I got an award in 2016. It was a chancellor's award for the university
Oh,
called the Bridge Builder Award.
wow.
And I was the first one to receive it. It was a new category, a new award. And it was because of the work that I did between working with athletics, with the student government, with organizations on campus, with athletics in general. It was really like bridging those gaps. And I think that's when I really got this idea that I wanted to bridge gaps and I wanted to build bridges for other people to follow behind. And I wanted to break barriers. And I think, it all culminated up to 2020 and into 2021. My real goal, I would say, there is I want to empower young women of color. I think that it's something that I maybe haven't, spoken up too much about in the past, but I really want to now. I'm a 25-year-old young businesswoman. I'm Korean and Filipina. I'm a woman of color. And I really want to help this group and anyone else who is young and really part of that I generation to understand the idea of fearlessness. And that's a word that so many people always say to me, that I seem like I'm fearless, but I think it's really having this idea that we have this ability to make change. You have the ability to do things if you just believe that you can. And, and we live in this age in 2021 where social media, where branding like really leads the charge in being able to make change. And just, social media is what drives culture and media. And I think that there's so much power in that. I want young adults to understand the power that they have. And that, with that power, you have the ability to make change and you have the ability to do the things that you want.
That's just great. What a way to finish the serious stuff. I have a couple, we'll wrap this up. I mean, that's just,
Yeah, go for
by the
it.
way, this is, listen, I could listen to you all night. You've got such a, and sometimes I sit here and I try to, I try to process
Mhm.
that I'm talking to someone that graduated in 2018 here, not 50
I
years
know.
ago.
I'm 25 going on 35, I feel.
Well, even more, like maybe 55.
Oh yeah,
No, you
I'm
have such a handle and poise and such a grasp. Uh, uh, I think it's wonderful. So, Rachel, um, here's a question for you. So, excluding a family or friends,
Mhm.
uh, it could be somebody living or dead. Who'd you like to spend a day with during the pandemic?
Ooh, I think someone that I want to spend time with is actually two people. It's my family. I
Sure.
as a, yeah, it's a very corny answer. I didn't really expand too much outside my circle, but I think in 2020, just like everyone else, we spent a lot of time by ourselves. This was the first time I lived in New York City by myself with my puppy. And I think I learned a lot about myself. I was very introspective and took the time to understand like what I want for the future. And I think that it's really important. If you're going to help anyone, you need to first understand yourself and be able to help yourself. And so 2020 for me was really all about understanding myself and really just planting my own roots. So I had that foundation to grow. And I think it made me understand family more and really put a better emphasis on relationships. And it gave me the ability to get closer with my parents and get closer with my family. And when I was a student athlete at Rutgers, I almost never got to go home because, rowing our schedules like 6 days a week, twice a day. So I was very, very busy. And now that I have the ability to go home, I want to go home every weekend if I could, because I miss my parents, and they're coming up in retirement now. And I know that they've got time. So I'm definitely going to be spending a lot more time with them.
That's great. What a way to, a perfect answer. And this has been a perfect interview. And listen, we've been planning this for a long time.
I know.
So I can't thank you enough for your time, your energy, your passion.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been such a joy for me to do this with you because we're Rutgers, and
Right.
I guess it's a kick out of this, and in our dome audio synchronicities and all that. So I only wish you good things,
Thank
and to be continued is a great way to end this, because this channel will always be open for you in ideas, and happy healthy New Year, and go RU.
Yeah, definitely go Knights.
Okay, thanks so much, Rachel.